You can now buy an Aston Martin for less than a fully loaded Toyota Camry. Yeah, seriously. A car that used to sit in millionaire garages next to Ferraris and Bentleys is now sitting online with suspiciously low prices and minor issues in the description. And honestly, that should scare you a little. Because this is the Aston Martin DB9, a V12 Grand Tour that looks like it belongs in a James Bond movie. Not in the same price range as a used diesel BMW, but somehow, here we are. And I'll be honest, this car makes absolutely no sense. Not financially, not logically, not emotionally. And that's exactly why people love it. Because the moment you see one, logic completely leaves the room. Look at it. Even today, this thing is beautiful. Not aggressive like a Lamborghini. Not flashy like a Ferrari. It's classy, clean. The kind of car that doesn't scream for attention, but still gets it. This is the automotive version of showing up to a party wearing a perfectly tailored suit while everyone else is trying too hard. And then there's the engine, a naturally aspirated V12, 12 cylinders, in a car that now costs less than some new economy SUVs. That is ridiculous. You start this thing up and instantly understand why people get emotionally attached to cars. Because modern cars don't feel like this anymore. Everything now is turbocharged, muted, artificial. This thing feels alive. And maybe slightly angry. The sound alone feels expensive. Not loud in a childish way. Just smooth, deep, confident. Like the car already knows it's better than traffic around it. And honestly, driving one makes you feel important, even if your bank account completely disagrees. But now we need to talk about the reason these cars are suddenly affordable. Because Aston Martin ownership is an experience, and not always a pleasant one. This is one of those cars where you don't ask, how much is the car? You ask, how much courage do I have? Because buying a cheap Aston Martin is a bit like dating someone extremely attractive with obvious red flags. You already know this could end badly, but you still want to try anyway. And that's the dangerous part, because this car seduces you. The design seduces you. The V12 seduces you. The badge seduces you. And before you know it, you're online convincing yourself that buying a 12-cylinder British luxury car is somehow a responsible adult decision. Which it absolutely is not. But that's what makes this fun. Nobody buys a DB9 because it's practical. Nobody cross-shops this against a Toyota Prius. This is a car for people who want to feel something, and that's becoming rare. Modern luxury cars are technically amazing, but a lot of them feel cold, too perfect, too digital. The DB9 still feels human, and honestly, sometimes that matters more than speed or reliability. Because this car has personality, a lot of personality, sometimes maybe too much personality, but still personality. And let's be real, a part of the appeal is the image. You pull up in an Aston Martin and people instantly assume things about you. Usually good things. They assume you're successful, sophisticated, maybe secretly a movie villain, which is honestly worth at least another 20 horsepower. But here's the funny part. A lot of these cars are now owned by people who definitely were not the original target audience. The first owner probably wore expensive watches and drank champagne in Monaco. The third owner is searching cheap Aston Martin parts at 2 a.m. while pretending this is financially smart. That's depreciation for you. And somehow, that makes these cars even cooler. Because now they're attainable, not sensible, not cheap to maintain, not stress-free, but attainable. And that changes everything. Because suddenly, owning a V12 Aston Martin is no longer a billionaire fantasy. It's just a slightly unhinged life decision. And honestly, that's way more interesting. So yeah, the Aston Martin DB9 might not be the smartest car you can buy, but it might be one of the coolest. And in a world full of boring SUVs and silent electric crossovers, maybe that still matters. And if you enjoy this kind of content, cars with personality, bad financial decisions, and absolutely no boring reviews, subscribe. because we're just getting started.